By the age of 21, I had physically and emotionally overcome a roller coaster because of my health, which is a kidney disease called FSGS. I had lost both of my native kidneys. I had chosen to do dialysis at home. This particular dialysis is called peritoneal dialysis and didn't know when I could get a successful kidney transplant. But allow me to take you back in time. At the age of 3, I started showing symptoms of an illness. And of course, my parents took me to doctor's visits and really couldn't diagnose me at the time. It took several doctor visits to confirm that I had an illness, FSGS, which is a rare illness condition where the kidney will scar itself until I could no longer function, ultimately leading to an end of renal failure and dialysis. The treatment started at an early age, which were mainly steroids and other medications. This wouldn't help prevent flare-ups, and flare-ups meant that I would attain all liquids in my body. I went through years of medications and had flare-ups and of course hospital stays until the medications no longer worked. The disease was kept for another few years. I was taking a heavy cocktail of heavy steroids and supplements that didn't really work. But allow me to share with you an experience that I can still remember till this day. I remember at the time I was starting to hold water weight, which ended up to be about 12 to 13 pounds. At that point, I was having difficulty walking. My mother had taken me to an old children's hospital location. As I was in the hospital room, the nurses started with a quick intravenous treatment which had allowed me to urinate. I had urinated not all that much. We came back Wednesday evening and were back at Children's Hospital. Of course, the nurses did the same treatment, and I had urinated about the same amount. We had just left the hospital before midnight. By Friday, my mother had had enough. My mother was determined that we were going to stay until I could urinate all of the liquids out of me. As it got later that Friday evening, my mother and I could tell the nurses, the staff, and the doctors of that particular chain were ready to do the same quick treatments and send us home before midnight. When the kidney doctor came in, my mother was ready with her speech. She says, "We are not leaving. Look how much she has urinated." And of course, the same thing happened Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we are staying until he gets back to his normal size. Either you find us a room upstairs or find us blankets for the floor. The nurse had replied that upstairs was full, but they had a room in the observatory room on the corner from the emergency floor area. I had done the treatment and had urinated perhaps a few milliliters more and maybe even double, but we were not leaving still. Our faith in God has carried us through this. My mother has started a prayer chain and had called my family and friends. That Sunday morning, I still hadn't urinated much. The nurse came over and we were ready to be shipped out as a new team comes in. As my mother and I are praying, my mother sees a female and walks into a room. She identifies herself as a kidney doctor. Our prayers were answered. She looks at me, then looks at the plastic container and asks, "Can you stay the day?" Right away, my mother says yes. The new kidney doctor had ordered new rounds of intravenous medications. I started urinating all afternoon and pretty much all Sunday and Monday morning I was back to size. From that experience alone, we have always had a female kidney doctor. As I left Children's Hospital at the age of 19 and I got ready to transition into an adult hospital, But before I left, they were teaching us on how to do peritoneal dialysis. Training for peritoneal dialysis for 3 weeks. We had to go and do it daily, 3 times a day. In order to do peritoneal dialysis, I needed a catheter in my abdomen. Imagine having a hose in your body that will allow you to hook up and wash your blood. Almost a year later of doing peritoneal dialysis at home, we went to the doctors and discovered that my dialysis wasn't cleaning my blood 100%. Therefore, I had to start doing dialysis between the hours of 12 and 1, then 5 and 6, every day during the day. But that wasn't it. Of course, I had to be hooked up all night to the machine, cleaning my blood. When my middle brother arrived home from Chile, of February 2015 from Santiago, Chile, he could tell that my smile was still there, but my energy was gone. I remember feeling weak, feeble, exhausted all the time. I will have to run liters of solution through my body. This will be filtered through a dialysis machine, which ended up being my life support. By the age of 21, the doctors were reluctant to put me on a transplant list. It wasn't until then that the doctors had discovered that there was a cancer mass attached to my left kidney, which was the size of a golf ball. As I was preparing for the kidney transplant, the doctors recommended that it would be safer to remove my kidney with a cancer mass altogether, so that we would continue on the transplant. I remember being in the recovery room with lots of pain. What painful it was to see my parents that when I had gotten out of the operating room, 2 hours later, I was wheeled away to undergo dialysis. July 13th, 2015 was the day my middle brother and I were undergoing a kidney transplant. My brother knew that he and I would be a match well before the transplant test results came in. My brother would like to say that it was a difficult decision, but for him it wasn't. In many ways, God had prepared us for this moment. We underwent a successful kidney transplant, and of course, we named the kidney Bruce. I was in the IC room for a week, and my brother had recovered within 4 days. I have to say that the recovery time for me was almost 2 months stay at the hospital. What was beautiful about staying at the hospital for almost 2 months was that I was taken care of by good kidney doctors and nurses. I can remember having my immediate family over, my brothers and their girlfriends. We would play card games, checkers, and even play sequence. We enjoyed each other's company, and almost every night the nurse would ask us, "What's for dinner?" I can remember also having other family members, but also friends, neighbors, and even school teachers to come and see me, to see how I'm doing. Each and every visit had brought lots of love, warmth, and we got to share the sheer joy with each other, not just for me, but for my whole family. During the last 4 years of treatment, I had left the hospital during treatment 3 times a week. Through the months, this frequency started to decrease. Now I do treatment every 5 weeks. What a blessing. Last August, I decided to have I had upper back pains and had to go to the emergency room. The doctor had diagnosed I was having muscle spasm. Then he released me. Within 24 hours, I was back at the hospital, Unfortunately, my kidney doctor notified I was immediately checked in, and it had nothing to do with my back. I had an infection on my right catheter. During that week of treatment, the catheter was removed. 3 weeks later, a new catheter had to be placed. This was my lifeline. Unto be known to me, my right vein is blocked, so they had to put the catheter on my left side. Fast forward to March of last year of 2021. I have had the left catheter removed and had 2 new ports placed under my skin on the same left side where I had the catheter placed. This, for me, was so that I could continue apheresis treatments. The doctor who had placed the ports confirmed that my right side, my vein is blocked and that it needs to be opened. I had difficulty with the 2 new ports. According to the doctor who placed these ports, recommended that I should have my right side open sooner than later. Last Friday was my first treatment. I had spent last 3 weeks with anticipation with these new ports, wondering if they would work. To my surprise, they did. What also surprises me is that a nurse was able to do the ports, but the technicians couldn't, so the nurse had to do the treatment. 2 female nurses had to watch and see how it was done, and so did the technicians, because neither of them had the chance of the experience just yet. My treatment last Friday lasted from 10 a.m. to 4:30. I came home exhausted, but was grateful that treatment went very well. And it should run smoother. In the next 5 weeks, with this, I should not be as nervous as I was this past Friday. Last but not least, I will say this to each and every one of you. For the past 23 years, my health has been a big part of my life. You know, when a person embarks upon a kidney disease and also a journey, they don't have a roadmap to tell them where to go or what to expect, but they may also fear the unknown. But I have to say this, it does bring a person's experience to life. This last Friday had marked 130 treatments since. These treatments is what keeps me going, but also it's the love, the friendship, the support, and most importantly, the prayers that keep me going. Last but not least, is a seed of hope and a bud of faith. Thank you.